It's a war outside, it's a war outside. It's a war outside. And everybody acting like they don't see it. It's a war outside. Don't no one believe. Damn. Sometimes I'm thinking that I'm crazy off the shit I ponder. Journey of a million miles when my mind wandered.
Episode 91, hellablack, Inauguration Day issue, you feel me? Turn off that CNN, turn off that ABC, and tap in with hellablack and get you some real shit, you feel me? Some real politics on this day that, you know, quote unquote America is back. You know what I mean? We still here with that black shit, that real black shit, that radical black shit, that revolutionary black shit, you feel me? That Pan-African black shit, you feel me? We still here for the liberation of all African people.
Yes, sir.
Even though we have a so-called African as vice president of this imperial project known as America. But, you know, we're going to kick this shit off and give y'all some, you know, we did election day thoughts, inauguration day thoughts, you feel me? We going to be rocking.
Nigga, that was 4 years ago. Or wait, election day. Oh, when, like, recently.
Yeah, when niggas voted. He was about to say, nigga, that was 4 years ago.
I'm like, nigga, was we even a thing? But, yeah, bro, today is it's a heavy day. It's a heavy day for sure. It's a lot of emotions, a lot of people feeling inspired, a lot of people feeling uninspired, and all things are valid. Miriam Kaba had a tweet last night saying, like, it's important for folks to acknowledge, like, we did, in terms of symbolism, we did get a symbol of fascism out the house, but it's important to understand how the colonial empire works. You know, like, just because you don't recognize Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as fascists and dictators and pawns of the colonial imperial nation of America doesn't mean that they aren't. And so, wow, yeah. Nigga, she'll rejoice.
While Trump is a fascist,
yeah,
I would also call Joe Biden a fascist too.
1,000%.
I would call any president of this U.S. imperial project a fascist.
Yeah.
Like, every single president has been one.
But yeah,
if you look at the violence, not only here from, you know, settler colonialism to American imperialism, that's fascism.
Yeah, but I get
it's
why.
It's a certain brand of it. You feel me? There's different brands,
and it's meeting people where they are and their understanding of how this country works and how, you know, capitalism works. Like, for some folks, they are still at a point where they do believe that, you know, people have the power to change the way that systems are structured to work. And that's just, you know, for those people that are in that space, I get it. I think it's up to folks like you and I who have somewhat of an understanding of how things truly work and have had access to radical, revolutionary political education. This is where we have to go in overdrive with our shit, because what I'm seeing with the problem is that, you know, niggas are in their echo chambers. I'm seeing it on Twitter right now, and I've indulged in this. I'm just choosing not to indulge in it today, because I'm like, this. What are my viral tweets actually going to lead to? Am I actually politically educating people by just, you know, with these few sentences, or this, like, because most people aren't even having threads right now. They just getting off shit that they know is going to resonate with their echo chambers. You know what I'm saying? That's on both sides. That's on the quote unquote radical left, and that's from liberals.
The liberals.
You know what I'm saying? Like, people are just, whether it's commenting on Kamala's outfit or stating Barack Obama is there, or is people saying, you know, the same, all presidents are presidents. Like, that shit is just like, people just saying shit they know that's going to resonate with people. But for the folks who are truly trying to inspire change and truly educate people, like, I assume that we are trying to do, what does it actually look like for us to talk about the value of political education? What does that mean for, like, how are we going to start using our platforms via Twitter and this podcast? Which we have used it, but how are we going to up the ante now that we know for a fact that these liberals are about to be, the liberals and the right, because now the right are going to act like, America is actually going to be on some revolutionary shit, which it's not. And the left are going to act like the same because of who's in quote unquote left, whatever quote unquote right, are going to act like it's the same because of the representation and the removal of Trump. So, like, how do we, like, that's where I'm challenging us as an organization with people's programs, and us as a political education outlet in hellablack. Like, nigga, we got to really start creating content in a way that exceeds outside of our echo chambers. Because right now, nigga, us these tweets, niggas, and come on. Motherfuckers is trying to go viral. Niggas is online damn near pandering. You pandering to, the motherfuckers, the left,
pandering to an algorithm,
or you pandering to the liberals. You feel me? Like shit that's the part that's been hella sad. It's like, come on, man. Like Nick, like come on. The niggas was just I was here on a call, and I walked in on Blake watching the inauguration, and it was niggas dressed up as like
Civil War fucking
what?
Niggas wearing them fucking fake hair tops. Niggas wearing them fucking British high top
like that's what
hats
the niggas was wearing when they came to the
and
continent.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris saluting them. You feel me? Like them motherfuckers wasn't just fucking murdering.
Like that's the same. Like that's like
indigenous people.
You all realize then, and I
like
was
them, you feel me? Dressing up like the British nigga. Like y'all niggas was fighting the British nigga, and the British was over here colonizing fucking India. You feel me? Kamala Harris is playing it on her South really Asian identity. Here? Like the fucking British didn't have India fucked up, Sri Lanka fucked up, South Asia fucked up. You feel me? And this is the American project, bro. It's a parade, bro. And sometimes that's why I was wanting to watch it. You feel me? Is just to like really remind myself, like this is exactly what this shit is. You feel me? This is exactly how this state works. This is a well-oiled, organized machine. And today is just an example of ruling class solidarity. From Mitch McConnell, pandering to Joe Biden to the, other Republicans, honoring Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the presidency. Like, this is ruling class solidarity in action.
Bernie Sanders, our favorite socialist, right there on the steps. Like, like what?
Y'all want to make memes like, oh, he didn't want to be there. If he didn't want to be there, that motherfucker wouldn't have been there, nigga. Like, oh, he was forced to be there. You motherfucker saying, oh, he's there so he didn't get fined and shit, using Marchand language and shit. Like, nigga, y'all is acting like some clowns, bro. In the name of what? In the name of liberal, neoliberal propaganda, bro. Like, yeah. It's ridiculous and it's wild, but it's like what you were saying is, as people who are trying to educate people on the conditions that our people are facing, like, what is the way we gonna educate them? It's like, I think that's important to think about. You know what I mean? Especially for myself. Like, nigga, I remember being hella excited when Obama got elected in 2008 or whatever that year was. You feel me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I grew up and I grew past that politic. Niggas used to think representation was cool. Like, oh shit, we do have a black president. That is tight. You feel me? Was a way of thinking until I really studied what Obama was doing, or towards, getting politicized in the Black Lives Matter movement and listening to what he is saying, telling, niggas to pick up their pants and shit and to stop rioting and protesting after Freddie Gray and calling for order and law and justice and shit. You feel me? Like, we got to look at the actions of people and not just past the representation, not just past the performative shit. I think that shit is super important, because if we look at the performative shit like today, I go on Twitter and people is, standing the fuck out of their outfits that they're wearing and shit like you was talking about.
That was a really good move, right? Because you see the vice president and Kamala, she's wearing Pierre Moss, you know what I'm saying? Which is, like I was telling you, like one of the biggest street brands. Like that's like that shit that I like. And it's wild, but also Pierre Moss is hella expensive, you know what I'm saying? So like when I think about calling it a street brand, it's like not really, but
that's just a marketing technique.
But it's like, it's also again, it's that aspiring, you know what I'm saying? Like it's what do they call it? Like that false sense of class solidarity where you have like poor black folks of like, oh, look at she rocking this shit too, and it's like, also that shit not even made for you, nigga. You can't afford that shit. Like, I can't afford that shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, look, again, you like fucking aligning yourself with these people, and I don't know, like this is no diss to I think his name is Kirby, who was the founder of Pierre Moss. Like, this is no slight or diss to him, but I'm just like, we have to look at things for what they are, right? Like, y'all are aligning with people who don't make shit for you. Like, this brand has no benefit for you, and this person for sure has no benefit for you in Kamala Harris as the way that she's functioned as both Attorney General, and now that she will function as the Vice President of the United States.
I mean, it's a person who's gonna lock you up. But like, legitimately thinking about, though, this is a part of neoliberal propaganda fundamentally, right? I saw a tweet that said, oh, look, Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama, they were on a group chat picking out their wardrobe. It's like, nah, actually, they, like, staff was talking and planning out exactly what they was going to wear. You feel me? And that shit is designed. You feel me? It's like, because they knew how people going to react. Oh, my God, look at their dress. Oh, my God, look at their style. Oh, my God, Kamala Harris is, like, nephew-in-law is wearing some Air Force Ones, like some
Like,
Dior
nigga,
Air Force Ones. Like this shit is exactly.
They control the websites, the apps that they're on. They have access to your data. They know what y'all want to hear and see.
And exactly, and that is, that's very intentional to remove the violence that these people do. It's, it's this propaganda that quote unquote humanizes them from the fucking terrible war crimes that they are going to commit. Right? There's a reason why every single president, I guess Trump didn't have it, but every single president had a dog. Yeah. Motherfuckers don't give a fuck about their dog. They ain't walking that dog, nigga. They ain't feeding that dog. They know exactly what you want to see, bro. Every single reason why every single president has been married. Yeah. You feel me? There'll never be a single president of the United States of America. They want to see the quote unquote American happy family. Right? Yeah. All these things is propaganda to get you to buy into this imperial project known as America, right? Yeah. It's understanding that,
Yeah, and how we don't fall victim and be led astray as a result of the propaganda is we have to continue to look at things for what they are, like you said, right? Like, look at the quality of life for Africans across the diaspora. Look at the U.S. military presence in the Middle East, in Africa. You know what I'm saying? Look at sanctions. Look at the experience of black folks right here on this stolen land.
Look at the military presence in your own goddamn neighborhood this summer.
That's how we're going to be able to see what's really going on as they sell you dreams of progress. As they sell you dreams of progress, masked as Joe Biden, masked as Kamala Harris, masked as, old dude who stuck his hand out, or whoever was guarding the White House, the Capitol, wherever the fuck they was at. Like, as they sell you these dreams of inclusion, integration, and progress, look at what's truly happening to the world around you. And like, that's my call to action to anyone that's feeling inspired in this moment. Like, don't be led astray by what they showing you, what they pumping into you in mass media. There's a reason why they pumping that to you. They trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Look at what's truly happening. Exactly. And then that way you can develop an actual analysis and understanding of what the colonial empire in the U.S. is actually doing and how it's impacting the masses of people.
We got to always understand how this empire will shift to move with the times. How the empire, we are colonial subjects. We're subjected to colonialism, right? But how the empire, in 2021 is now using integration as a tactic, right? The integrationist movement in the 60s and 70s, right? This has been a long project for this empire, right? And literally right now, we seeing how integration is, using a black neo-colonial bourgeoisie class to carry out the work of the empire through a Kamala Harris, right? Same thing as Obama, right? That's why they put that black cop who, quote unquote, defended the Capitol. He was going viral. I've seen so-called.
He got to go from the field into the big house.
I've seen, abolitionists talking about, praising this cop and shit. And now that cop is at the forefront, walking in with Kamala Harris and gets a promotion, right? That is integration, and that is propaganda to tell you, okay, if you get in line, you feel me? If you join this system, you will be rewarded. It's sending a message. Oh, become a black cop. Yeah. Right, that is all. We have to look at this all as a part of a propaganda project. You feel me? Anything they're doing is a part of propaganda and advancing this imperial project and advancing the domination of this country.
It's wild. We wrote the outlines for this episode prior to the inauguration. Like, this shit is clockwork. You know how these niggas is gonna function. Like, you just know.
I mean, if you study the history, if you study the past, it's very clear. You could, it's. This motherfucker predictable. It's a machine, but this motherfucker's predictable. You can understand exactly where it's going to go and what it's going to do to maintain power. It's been doing it for hundreds of years. If you study it, you can see it. You know what I mean? 100+ years of this shit. Like,
what the saddest part of, like, what the part that was kind of sad for me? Like, watching people pander to the liberals online. And it's something we already are touching on, right? But it's like, you want to be seen by these people so bad, and you want to be acknowledged by them, that you align with them in hopes that will lead to some opportunity, in hopes that it will lead to progress. Like, nigga, they don't care about you.
And that's exactly what it's designed to do.
They don't
That's
care.
why Kamala Harris is up there. That's why they put that black cop up there too.
Kamala will lock your black ass up in an instant. She will continue to send trans women to men's prisons in an instant. That shit don't matter that you recognize her outfit. She will continue
to criminalize sex workers.
She don't give a fuck if you recognize her Pierre Moss or if her nephew got on Air Force Ones. They don't give a fuck about none of that. They're gonna use that shit for as far as it'll take them. They only align with you when it's beneficial for them. Any other time she ain't wearing that streetwear shit.
And it's all strategic.
Only when she need that. Only when she need to let y'all guard down. During election season, she was strolling or whatever the fuck they call it. She was doing all that shit during the election season. Now in the inauguration, she wearing like, come on, my nigga. These people don't care about us, and it took me a while to learn that too. So I'm gonna be patient with y'all. You know, as patient as we can be
until shit gets spunky and niggas have no more time for patience.
But like I get it, and again, like to another point, as I'm thinking about that, like the importance of political education and where I see a flaw in it, especially as I look at Twitter being the main for the masses, right? Like for folks that aren't attached to organizations or don't have the capacity to get outside or, you know, build with folks for whatever reasons, they get like Twitter is where they do a lot of they bouncing ideas off one another or quote unquote community building. And I realized where Twitter has fucked up political education is it's morphed our experience with political education, especially from like the dog piling on niggas or making niggas feel like they don't know enough, or also making niggas feel like they know more than what they actually do. And then also in addition to that, it's fucking like it's morphed our shit in the way where it removes the opportunity for an in-depth analysis and reflection. Because how in-depth can you get with? Is it 140 characters? I don't know. Like they explained it.
249.
Yeah, but like how like
280. I don't know.
And especially when your goal is to get your shit onto as many. Like it's like okay, you're stuck between how many people I want this to resonate with versus how many people are going to actually like you're caught between this place of okay, I want this to resonate with hella people, but I also need to go in depth. And it's like who, you know, again, it's fucked up people's capacity to read more than 240 characters. It's fucked up people's capacities to really engage in a thread. And I think niggas have to take that power back. Like we have to stop just retweeting the first tweet of the thread or stop, you know, just, and that's something I'm trying to do better of, is stop just like, just stop fucking trying to use buzzwords and just packaging the information in a way that won't lead to an actual understanding. Like that's not political education. Yeah, it's not. How many viral tweets have actually shifted the way you view and think about things? Like how many times has somebody saying all cops are bad actually led to you being like, fuck,
all cops
these niggas
are
really
bad.
are bad. How many times have all presidents are fascists actually led to someone realizing like, oh shit, all presidents truly are fascist? How many times that even led to somebody being like, well shit, let me go look up what fascism means? Or it's on average, it's not gonna happen that way. It's gonna lead to, let me retweet this so I can show that I'm aligned with this frame of thinking, that I'm on this side of the fucking political
spectrum. Or
you know what I'm saying?
Call it, yeah.
It's like that's what niggas want to do, as opposed to like providing some real fucking in-depth analysis. And we have also did that. Like I'm like, even on the pod, you know, like we have to really, when we introduce ideas, and it's hard because we trying to squeeze this however much content into an hour and a half before we have to run to do other work. But I hope, like, I'm gonna try to take that burden on them from my Twitter end, like as I present ideas on this podcast. And I hope that at least for us, if we can't provide hella in-depth analysis, we at least like can lay the framework for you to start doing some thinking. Yeah. Like that. And that's what I'm challenging other niggas to do. Like stop, realize you're not tweeting for your echo chamber. And if political education truly is a goal of yours, then start laying the foundation for research and inquiring to be done. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that was a rant, but I hope I got it.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I think it's this shit is deep. You feel me? Like political education, you know, sometimes people just put it in this really small box, like, oh, it's just a few tweets or some shit. And it's not. You know what I mean? Even when we were talking about books, like talking about Aiden, like, I got to reread this book. You feel me? Like, it isn't just like, oh, I checked this book off. It's like, I actually have to come back to it. You know what I mean? And keep studying. Because I think, you know, it has, like, just one tweet ain't it. And I think that's what times, you know, a lot of people are trying to produce. Feel me? It's just something with buzzword. Like we know how to get a viral tweet off damn near now. But like, you know, when I do more of like an in-depth analysis, you feel me?
And not to say that it can't happen. Like I've had some tweets where like
it was in-depth, and you know, like I did that thread on Kamala Harris that went kind of viral. Yeah. Like that was actual like in-depth somewhat of an in-depth analysis
with facts, resources,
receipts.
Yeah, exactly.
You feel me? Like, I think that shit is important when you're introducing ideas, especially like as a teacher. You know, like, you have to introduce the history. You have to introduce what it means now. You have to introduce and give people concrete examples. And oftentimes through Twitter, that isn't being done as people
like,
just trying to get shit off.
No wonder why niggas
and even myself, even myself, I've been guilty of it. You feel me? But it's like
off of Twitter too. Like, I look at like, no wonder why niggas ain't learning nothing. Look what you did. All you did was say read this book, or you fucking called them out for doing this thing.
Or like, niggas' favorite line on Twitter is just Google it. It's like, bruh, you Google black resistance, nigga, you might have a nigga like Umar pop up. You feel me? You feel me? Some con artist type shit.
The thing is, everybody is not a teacher. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that
teaching,
doesn't
teaching is hard too, bro.
Capacity for teaching.
Niggas want us to talk about political
exactly.
education, bro. Shit is not easy to teach people at all. It's not easy to teach people who disagree with you. Who come in like firsthand, like teaching freshmen who come in sometimes. Like, I remember I had a student who came in, he wanted to be a cop. I told him, I said, hey, my goal for this year is to convince you and to educate you to a way to where you don't become a cop. It actually ended up working, but that shit was difficult as fuck. Everything I'm saying, nigga, pushing back. You know what I mean? But a year later, he's like, I didn't want to be a cop no more. You know what I mean? That shit is a lot of hard work, especially when you were so invested in something and it brings in a lot of emotion out of you. Like being able to stay like, bro, because if you berating somebody, nobody want to learn that way. If I say, nigga, you hella stupid, you hella dumb, like, why the fuck would you want to be a cop? What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like if I, approached it that way, nigga would have been like, fuck this nigga, whatever, I'm finna go join the academy. But if I had to come at it in a different way as an educator.
Yeah, and this is the type of reflection, and it's going to be a challenge, but this is a challenge that we got to pose to ourselves and we got to step up to. Just, because it's at that point, it's always going to be at this point, but especially as, platforms grow, there are going to be people today there are people over the last year, 2020 up until now, who, whether it be their tweets that they was getting off during the uprisings, tweets that they was getting off during the quarantine, who have grown platforms and people are looking to for guidance, and rightfully so. Some of these people, are doing amazing work and are sharing resources on their platform. You know what I'm saying? But on average, you see people just spewing rhetoric in a way that they know will resonate with
people who already
the masses of Twitter. And it's just like, bro, for niggas like us who have this podcast, again, who have this platform, it might not be the biggest platform in the world, but there are people who come here to learn something. For niggas like us who have an organization that is trying to provide resources and educate people, like, we need to be taking the next step, bro. Like, it's not enough to just be getting these tweets off and feeding people. Like, we have to be really, really intentional with every action, bro. Period.
Yeah, and having that reflection, you feel me, to be like, nah, we was doing this the wrong way, or like, oh, niggas need to adjust. Maybe we wasn't always doing it the right way. But I'm even thinking like, damn, niggas have talked about political education all the time. When have we even defined it for people?
We haven't.
We on episode 91. We've never even defined what political education.
You talk about why it's important.
Even mean. We say that we need to do this. This is political education.
Yada yada
yada yada.
It's that echo
damn
chamber
near
shit,
even using buzzwords of it, but it's like, fuck, nigga, what is political education?
I don't even like. We keep talking as we read. I know for me, right? Like, you'll start seeing in the last, 2 months, I've been saying like the colonial empire or the capitalist imperial nation. Like, these are words that I'm starting to use and framing, like, lumping together as a result of me reading Jalil shit, right? But
which is important.
Did I define
but
those?
Did you define this for these people?
I start making this shift? Like, are you starting to hear me say African more? Like,
why are you making that shift as a new African? What is a new African? What is Pan-Africanism?
And again, that's where niggas have been failing. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a part of this shit. It's a part of it. But I think we all need to start really having that intention with our shit, bro. Especially if we're gonna be propping ourselves up or allowing the community to prop us up as quote unquote leaders. Like, again, like, I think for me, I'm trying to reduce. Like, I don't want to go into a tangent, but yeah, because I was on to another tangent around leadership, and I know for me personally, I want to fall more back into like the organization shit and like want to be known as like a member of people's programs and letting that be do the talking for me. And even the way that we show up on the podcast, I don't want to like, oh, Delency is this person that has all this information, all this power. It's like, no, I am a product of community, and I'm a product of the things that I'm reading, and I'm trying to just pay it forward via I'm trying to contribute to the movement via the organization and via the podcast. And by relaying the messages that I'm reading and by sharing the resources that I'm coming across. And so that's that point. That's a shorter tangent for a longer tangent that I could have went into. I'm trying to exercise control or some shit. Yeah. But secondly, again, all right, because we almost just did it. We just brought up all these buzzwords and we didn't define.
I was about that was going to be my next thing. So what does political education mean to you, Delency?
What does political education mean to me?
How would you define it?
I think it's doing the necessary research, and that can come via reading, audiobooks, podcasts that allow me to learn how society works. And from a African in America standpoint, it's getting the education that I need to fight the capitalist imperial nation that is America. Like getting the education, getting the resources that I need to liberate myself and my people. That's what I mean. Like that's the education I need. The education that is linked to the politics that aligned with, socialism, fucking Pan-Africanism, all the shit that's gonna lead to sovereignty and self-determination and liberation for all Africans and oppressed people. That's the shit that I need to be reading. That's what political education is for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for me it's both the personal, right? So the personal transformation into becoming a better person, that is fundamental. Like what is that's a part of it. It's like my personal transformation that leads me to making better decisions, becoming more and more principled every day, right? That personal impact. Mm-hmm. And then also it is about the action, right? So educating myself, to have action and my actions that are aligned with the liberation of all African people. Yep. Under scientific socialism, right? So I think for me it's definitely the personal, but then also like what is the action next? And then also, getting those resources to become educated on the systems that oppress us every day. Yep. And it's not just enough for me to become educated on it, but then also to make those actions to make changes and also to teach others as I am learning myself. Because it's a disservice to do all this reading, to do all this learning, to do all this reflection, to do all this shit, and then not, have that leave my own mind and just stay here. You got to go travel. You feel me? You got to educate other people too. Yeah. So, it's action-based. Political education is always action-based. It's introspective, it's reflective, but it's also taking actions, you feel me, to move forward.
Yep, and that's why I think for both of us when we get on here and be like, oh, niggas need political education, is because it's because we're recognizing when either we or someone we know or someone we're seeing is doing something that's not aligned with the shit that they're talking about or the shit that they claim to want, right? Like if you claim you want the liberation of all Africans, but then you are consistently aligning yourself with the same empire that has led to their oppression.
You post some photos
and enslavement.
Of police. And shit.
It's like, well, okay.
You marching with the police.
You need to learn something because you can't say you want liberation of Africans and you fucking with the police. You can't say these things and then do these things. Like you can't be for a revolution, but then aligning with counter-revolutionary forces. And that's when I'd be like, oh, well, nigga, you need some political education. Like, how are you saying you want these people free, but you still preaching capitalism? You still telling niggas they can change shit from within. How are you saying, like, we need the liberation of folks, and you over here excited about a presidency? Like, that's what I be saying. Like, oh, nigga, that's when I be saying, oh, you need some political education.
Right. And political education should lead to revolutionary change. You got to liberate your mind so you can liberate your body. You feel me? Because some people might say, oh, we need education, right? And you see this all the time now, especially, education is almost like a favorite buzzword that, these athletes be using now, especially on all these commercials and NBA shit, NFL shit, you know what I mean? Like, it's always like, oh, we need to invest in education. But what type of education? So like when we talk about political education, we talking about revolutionary education that leads to change in your practice in your daily life, bro. And that leads towards the liberation of all people, all African people. You feel me?
So, something I want to ask you for the folks who are excited and feeling inspired by today, and think deep down inside that they do want to see Africans liberated from colonial rule, but they just don't know where to start, or they still doing things that again align with the state as opposed to combat the state in its power. What do you think some like next steps are for them?
Question why you inspired by today? Like what inspires you about today? Like fundamentally asking yourself that question. Like, what does a Kamala Harris presidency inspire you, or vice presidency inspire you? What does a Joe Biden presidency inspire you? Like asking yourself those questions, right? Maybe even writing that shit down. And then the next question you got to ask yourself is like, what does that do for African people? What does that do for oppressed people in America and throughout the world? That's the first question I would ask.
Yeah.
You know, I think what is going to be fundamental in these next 4 years is continuing to build survival programs, right? Programs that meet the needs of the people, right? Programs that serve the people. You know, as we're seeing under this pandemic, as we're seeing in the economic crisis that our people have faced for the past hundreds of years, that is only getting worse, right? We are going to need to take care of our people and build these programs and build alternatives to this state. I think that's fundamental in the next 4 to 6 months. You know, so if people want to get inspired, like for change has to be built within the community, where we have our own power, where we have our own, you know, programs that work towards decolonization. You feel me?
Yeah.
I think that shit is super important.
Yeah. For me, I'm thinking, I feel inspired. Yeah, oddly, I feel inspired by today. And I think what I'm realizing is like, people clearly want.
You gonna write out why you feel inspired? No, I'm just fucking with you.
Like, am I gonna write a story?
Yeah, no, just the shit I was talking about. So if you feel inspired by Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, write down why.
Oh, nah. But so like, I don't feel inspired by them.
No,
I feel inspired by like clearly people, not the people who online like playing and pandering to the celebs trying to get noticed and trying to get Beyonce to retweet that shit. Like, I'm not those people. I'm inspired by the folks who, because like again, we was two people who was excited about Barack Obama. You feel me? Being elected. You was what, in 10th grade? I was in 11th. Yeah, something like that. So clearly, as niggas who were excited by moments like this, and now us being where we are in our frame of thinking and divestment from the state and all its systems, I'm excited to see that there are people who clearly want change. They just don't know that change can't come through this system yet. And now I'm like, okay, now how do I capitalize on that? How do I truly, by living the example, not just by living the example, but also by constantly getting them the resources and education that they need to see what true liberation will come from, what it looks like, that it doesn't look like a president, that it doesn't look like prisons, that it doesn't look like the police, that it doesn't look like gentrification, that it doesn't look like people sleeping on the streets. Like, we need to capitalize on that shit.
Yeah. No, I hear that. Yeah. I hear that. You know, one thing I was thinking about, you know, it's, you know, I don't be on that voting shit, you feel me? But one thing that did give me, you know, things that we should think about, right, is like Kwame Ture and Stokely Carmichael. You feel me? Formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. Bro was, you know, a part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, was part of, you know, getting people to vote. And he was saying, you know, I don't believe in this voting shit necessarily, but I believe it as a means of organizing my people, you know. And more black voters have begun organized and voting, right? So now how do we show these folks that are now becoming political, right, in some way, right? Even a vote, the most minimal act you could do. It's showing that a lot of people are starting to do these things, you know, because they do believe that they do want some change.
There were hella first-time voters
and shit like that. That is important, right? So now as people who have a more of a Pan-African outlook, right, a revolutionary outlook on how change can occur in society, how do we then get to those people who now voted and their life ain't changed yet? How can we show them, hey, this is actually how you make change? You feel me? These are the systems that will allow us to build something new, build an alternative. You You feel me?
And it's like, nigga, like,
and showing people that the alternative is possible. Showing people that, the state ain't paying your rent, but shit, maybe people's programs did or some shit like that. You feel me?
Yeah.
And building those types of shit where we can show people like, bruh, we are our own liberators. And that's the importance of survival programs, is that it's showing the people an alternative to this white supremacist state. You feel me? That's what I'm excited about. I think that's what we have to begin to really hone in on. Is like, a lot of people are starting to get politicized. No doubt about that.
Yep.
So how do we lead them in the right direction?
Yep.
How do we lead, you feel me, thinking about our own personal transformation in our politics? How can we lead, a young Blake, you know what I'm saying? Like, who was just getting politicized at De La Salle or something like that. How do we, you know what I mean? How do we do a young Delency, you feel me?
Yeah.
At Idaho. How do we lead that person, you feel me, to becoming and changing? I think those are the questions we got to ask ourselves, and having that patience, because it can get frustrating as hell. But reminding yourself that, like, bro, this is bigger than myself. My ego is showing up. That's why I'm getting frustrated. And I'm like, hey, this is the way forward. This is how we can move forward. Here's these books. Here's these audio books. Here's these things you could study. Shoot, you love King, but did you know this about Martin Luther King Jr.? Did you know he was an anti-imperialist? Oh, shit. Did you know he was anti-capitalist? Did you know he was aligning with Malcolm? Did you know that motherfucker had guns too? And really being able to put people on game. Yeah. I think that has to be the way forward, in my opinion.
We got to be exposing people. I'm thinking about even when we out at, when we doing our community learning sessions, like having the facts and stats there, like, since, a year from now, like since over the last year, these sanctions have been imposed in the Middle East under Biden's rule. This many drone attacks have happened. This is the state of AFRICOM. Nigga, this is the state of police violence with your black vice president. This is like, again, showing people that, fam, it is systems. For the folks that newly, got introduced to this via the uprisings, via Trump over the last 4 years, like helping them develop a real in-depth analysis of the world around them. Like, that has to happen. We have people's programs being able to get off a year from now at PBL being like, nigga, look at this. We've had a president for this long. We've had this many black people on city council. And look how many more meals we having to do now. Look how many people on the fucking street. We in our community learning programs, nigga. This is the facts of the things that we just stated, nigga. It's this many people, this many black folks in jail. It's this many black folks living under the fucking quote unquote poverty line.
Right. We got a quote unquote progressive in West Oakland as a city council person. This is the statistics of West Oakland. This is the statistics, right, of houselessness you know what I mean? It's really putting people on. Like, then that's what it has to be is that education stance. But in my opinion, especially seeing what happened at the Capitol, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, there needs to be an immediate sense of urgency for black folks, for all oppressed people. And that needs to be an immediate
and you'll be surprised, action. And folks are going to be surprised at how many organizations and people is already out here doing the work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Again, you might get involved with somebody, with an organization thinking that they politically aligned, but a lot of these niggas gonna have y'all out here on some charity shit, which is cool if that's your first. It's like if that's how you gotta get your foot in the door and get your experience of contributing to something that's been co-opted as a survival program into really just charity and acts of kindness. And if that's all you got access to right now, that's cool. I would damn near recommend it so that you can learn infrastructure and shit. But you need to be doing that political education at the same time, because once you start doing that political education of truly learning the role that the nonprofit sector has played in being counter-revolutionary, and the role that a lot of these folks are just using these spaces that are supposed to be for survival programs, and they're just using them for their own political and socioeconomic gain, then you'll be able to take a step back from that and push forward with the same resources. Me and Blake both come from nonprofit backgrounds, like, period. When you fresh out of college and you want to get into the work, that's often the only paid opportunity that you can have. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of niggas was doing, we started our organization, that shit was free. Like, this was crowdfunding, as you still crowdfunding all the shit that you can see, right? And so, like, there's going to be places already doing the work, but as you continually push yourself to get a real understanding and learn how systems work, and how the United States has been able to dominate globally for the last, 400 years via colonization, you'll be able to do some real work that is revolutionary.
Yeah, and start that process. We, that's one thing me and Delency have talked about is our own process. Like, Niggas used to be part of an organization that we thought was about black people, and it wasn't. So we left that organization, created our own organization that's centered in, you feel me, socialism. You feel me, that is centered in Pan-Africanism. You feel me? So I think it's really important, you know, just get your feet wet and study and ask questions and study and ask questions, you know, and be willing to check your ego, because that shit gonna show up. It shows up for me all the time. You gotta check that shit. Yep. Check the savior complex. You're not gonna be able to save everybody. You feel me? And why do you have a savior complex? You feel me?
That's something I've been tackling over the last, heavy over the last year, and not savior complex to where I feel like I'm actually saving people, but from savior complex where I put a lot of the burden of the work on myself, which has led to me not wanting to, which has halted my community building and quote unquote capacity building for other folks that I'm organizing with, because I feel like I'm the only one that can do it, which I think is related to savior complex. And it puts this unhealthy pressure on yourself. It also stunts the growth of your organization, your comrades or community members, and as a result stunts the growth of the community. And so, nigga, I'm, 6 years into this shit and I'm still having to check myself. 6 years heavy into it, having to check myself. But, I've been, you got to link up with niggas as best you can. I know some people don't have access to that. I'm in my hometown, as the co-founder of the organization, I got to lay down the foundation for a lot of the political standings. And it was lucky enough to I was receiving some real radical political education at the beginning of PBO and continued radical political education. So I recognize where I got lucky being in my hometown, having access to real radical political education. But nigga, the internet exists, Hella Black exists. We got 91 episodes where you could,
really tap in
and learn something for real.
And you also gonna hear us learning. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like you gonna listen, if you listen to episode 2 and you listen to episode 91, you gonna see our growth. You feel me? You're going to see how our thoughts have grown, how we become more and more politicized. But one thing I wanted to talk about, too, was that the capital shit. You feel me? The attempted coup. Because earlier I was talking about, just the sense of urgency for survival programs. And, I think now that Biden isn't president and Kamala isn't president doesn't mean that Trump is going away. Doesn't mean that the 70 million people who voted for Trump is going away. You feel me? Like, the shit that happened, that was an organized attempted takedown of, of Democratic politicians. It was a clear marching order given by Trump. You feel me? From the top down to orchestrate, violence.
Yeah.
To orchestrate like a right-wing takeover. You feel me? And that's something that, where these white supremacists are finding political unity amongst the different organizations and the different ideologies that they have for one common goal. And that's something that I think people need to really be paying attention about, bro.
Yeah, it's not something that people should take lightly at all. And it's not on no fear-mongering shit. This is literally just based off the facts, right? Like, we've seen their capacity for violence in their everyday life. You know what I'm saying? Like, just as these agents of white supremacy function on day to day, whether it's Dylan Roof sitting in the fucking Bible study for hours, whether it's that other cracker who drove across state lines to shoot up folks at a protest, whether it's Johannes Meserly, whether it's the pigs that kicked in Breonna Taylor door, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's the pigs that choked out George Floyd, like they've shown us on a day-to-day basis their capacity for violence over the last 400 some odd years, you know what I'm saying? And so it's not to be taken lightly, and it's just, it's not to scare niggas. This ain't like them. You get them text message threads. It's like the KKK. It's not that.
Seen his, shit
it's
like
it's
that.
not that. This is just facts. Like, nigga, they have shown you their capacity for violence, and they've shown you, and the state has shown you how they will also aid and be a vessel for their violence. Like the Capitol shit. People keep saying, "Oh, if it was black folks." Okay, we know how this happens. We know, nigga, they are going to protect white lives regardless. They're always going to prioritize white lives. Black lives will never fucking matter in this fucking country.
Period.
That's just the facts. And so when you take that into consideration, that the state has shown you how they will aid them in their takeover, how they will handle them with care, with the exception of the one that got knocked down. They will handle them with care, and you just you can't take that lightly. You can't.
And from this,
I don't take no threats of white supremacy lightly, or white supremacist violence.
New formations too is existing now. It's like they all was linking up, and now new formations from that is going to exist.
All these sites and shit, the 4chans and Reddits and all this shit,
bro.
Like,
and these lines and these boundaries, that's gonna be their next step. They're gonna be like, who is on our side, who isn't on our side. You feel me? It's looking at a nigga like Pence. You know, Pence demonstrated his ruling class solidarity, and Trump didn't. Trump said, "No, I'm out." And Trump was giving them orders. To where now Trump is talking about, "Oh, I'm about to develop a new political party, call some like patriot shit or some shit like that." Hinting at that.
You know what's wild? Do you remember when in the summer, I think it was right, but it was around the time they were about to kidnap the governor or mayor. Was the governor
in Michigan?
Remember how like all like the text message threads of that group was coming up? Like that shit was not national news.
Yeah, that
like,
shit was
do
blown
real research.
under the rug.
Like you got to do real research for that. But like that,
bro, even the bombing on Christmas in Nashville, bro, shit blown under the news, bro. That all that shit, is orchestrated. It's orchestrated, and these groups are linking up. That is an undeniable fact. They are linking up. And I think within the next 6 months to the next year, we will see violence, right? If 70 million people voted for Trump, it's safe to say that about 2 million of them will live and die for that motherfucker. Will live and die because Trump. It's not just about Trump. It's about this far-right ideology of fascism. You feel me? And 2 million of them will kill for Trump. Will kill for their whiteness and will kill for their fascism. It's demonstrated. They will do bombings. They will do assassination attempts. It's already happened. Right? Yeah. They do have a goal, an ideological goal of forcing another civil war in this country. And I would, at least 2 million of them are willing to fight. They're well trained. Yeah. A lot of them have military backgrounds. They're tactical. The motherfuckers is buying up all the guns and all the ammo. For what reason? The motherfuckers is at the ranges. You feel me? And this is something that the left, that the quote unquote radical left need to take seriously and have a sense of urgency with, because these motherfuckers are ready, and they have demonstrated that they will use violence and they will continue to use violence, right? I mean, even to the extent where you have the FBI was investigating the National Guard, right? Investigating the National Guard and having to pull troops out of the National Guard because they had right-wing ties. But who's investigating the FBI, right? You know, the way Malcolm said, the KKK took off their hood and put on the blue uniform. They put on the blue uniform. They put on a CIA hat. They put on an FBI jacket. They put on a National Guard uniform. So white supremacists are all these far right. These are obviously white supremacist institutions that I all named. But, these far right, extremists or whatever, terrorists you want to call them, right? They is all throughout the ranks. And that shit is something people should not take lightly.
I wouldn't at all. It's, again, we have centuries of, data to refer to when you talk about the capacity of white supremacist violence. Like, it's just something you can't play with. And they've shown us time and time again. And even if, it's all like in their head, they see something totally different. I don't know what they see happening in America as far as like change happening. Yeah, like they just thinking that, Biden and Kamala will be the vessels for revolution. Like, no, that's not what's about to happen at all.
They think Kamala was part of the radical left. Like, she wasn't a fucking cop blocking niggas up and killing niggas.
Yeah,
and
but
shit.
They want the society to function a very specific way. They want hate to be everywhere. They want white supremacy to be everywhere, out loud and proud. They don't want the watered down liberal version.
They don't want the liberal
politics. Yeah, they don't want that. They don't. They don't want to see monkeys on TV. They don't want to see. They don't want to see black people. Like, they don't want that. Like, no, this was designed for these specific reasons. And that right there, if anyone again who needs to see what America truly is, it's what the right, the quote unquote right nigga. I'm gonna keep saying that. Excuse me. It's what them far alt-right niggas are fighting to maintain. In their mind, they feel like shit is really shifting. But it's not at all. But they just want it to look a certain way. They want the Jim Crow shit. Yeah, they want the Jim Crow empire. They want it to look a certain way, and as we continue to shed light on real revolutionaries that were able to establish, that were really able to fight back, like the Panthers. You know what I'm saying? Like, bearing arms is just what's gonna have to happen. They've already shown you they will resort to violence to maintain order. And you can keep playing and lie to yourself and feel like we can, no matter how many survival programs we got, if we can't protect them, it won't matter. It won't matter how much land we acquire. If we can't protect it, it won't matter. It won't matter how many schools we build. If we can't protect them, it won't matter.
So you can feed 20,000 people, and these crackers can come up in their trucks and knock your shit down
even
at any moment, bro.
Or you could just be at church. Or you could just be in your house, nigga, creating your own little society like the Move niggas. In the crib chilling, sticking up for animal rights. And they come in and bust your pregnant wife over the head.
Yeah.
Like, this is
undeniable facts.
You gotta be willing. What is all this freedom that we want to gain if we not willing to not only fight to get it, but fight to preserve it? When they shown us they willing to fight to take that shit.
Exactly. And it's not like what we're saying isn't like a glorification of guns. It ain't that at all. You know, it's about our own safety. You know what I mean?
I hate violence.
Like,
I hate
bruh. It's like,
I just understand the role that if anyone that's gonna be pushing revolution, you cannot be talking about revolution
without talking about guns. Without talking about warfare.
That's like talking about a car with no wheels. Like, it's not a car. It's not a revolution if it don't involve guns, nigga.
And revolutionaries pick up the gun to abolish the gun. You know, a revolutionary war is a war that ends all wars. And it's really just in defense of our lives and in defense of our humanity. And I think that's something people really need to pay attention about. Niggas need to study gun safety. You feel me? Niggas need to, you know, not everybody, you know, people say, oh, all black people need to be armed. No, all black people don't need to be armed. Some niggas do not need guns. Like, that's just the fact. You feel me? And it's having that safety and having discipline. But I think it's inevitable. It's an inevitable. And this violence is inevitable. So it's important that, you know, we develop survival programs, because it ain't just about the gun. People just cosplaying as Panthers and shit and, you know, think they got a gun and that makes them powerful. That ain't true at all. So furthest from the truth. You have to have survival programs. You have to be well organized. And that's of prime importance. You feel me?
Yep.
So that's all I got.
That's all I got as well. Patreon.com/hellablackpod. Like and subscribe. Leave comments, the good ones. Or not. Whatever you need to feel. But fuck with us. Spread this around. Hopefully y'all enjoy this. And again, look at things for what they are, not for what you want them to be. Not for what you want them to be.
Yeah, tap in. Like us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts. Give us that 5-star review. If you white, pay up. Support this black radical shit.